Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for be up, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know who. Wanna go, gonna glow.
Aloha and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast, where the Packers have successfully defeated some demons and knocked off the Aaron Rodgers-led Pittsburgh Steelers. It is the definition of that meme, the they had us in the first half, not gonna lie meme. But as I'm joking with my dad and my brother, who are both Steelers fans, all the things they're saying now at the end of the game, trust me, I was saying all of those at halftime. So, there's going to be some nitpicks, some complaints, because that's what we do on this show. You know, we try to tell the truth through everything. But overall, Joe is fighting through a cold right now, but we are over the moon because this team, it's all about setting yourself apart from the rest of the pack. And in a league year where no one is doing anything great, Green Bay just has to keep stacking up wins, and there's going to be some LaFleur shots. There's going to be definitely some McManus shots and stuff in here. But overall, I am so proud of how this team came out in the second half and just responded to a lot of adversity. Granted, a bunch of it's self-inflicted, but that's the name of the game in the NFL. You've got to be able to roll with the punches and throw some back at. This team finally did, so really happy to see it.
For sure. I mean, this was definitely one that was a question mark on both our ends when we were doing our season predictions, because, how is the old man going to look? How is the offense going to look? How is the defense going to look? How are they going to handle TJ Watt? All that stuff. And it does seem like that they handled it pretty good. What was it? There was only a couple of pressures, but Love really wasn't sacked, was he?
No sacks for Jordan. He had some absolute last-minute dump-offs and things like that. A couple plays where he probably was understandably a little jittery. Things weren't great early. Collinsworth made a point to point out how often Love was getting knocked around in the backfield there. There's a comment coming on that later as well. But like I said, like I was saying on last week's show, the thing that Jordan does, I think, better than Rodgers does at this point is, and you can never tell how this is going to play out, but Jordan's poker face, that that he has he had the heart rate of a tortoise kind of thing. It plays so well in these kind of moments where nothing's going right. Jordan was honestly one of the few things that was consistently working well on offense through the first half. Tucker has an amazing drive and play in the next drive, and then he drops a crucial third down kind of thing. You had two rough reception attempts by Dobbs on third downs, missed blocking assignments, drops, you name it. And Jordan just, he kind of has that just same stone-faced expression. And I know some people are like, oh, you want to see more out of him on a down-to-down given stance. But at the same time, it's like, I want the quarterback who's not going to show how pissed off, irritated, upset, or just down in the dumps he is kind of thing. If you've never played the game, I cannot tell you how much of a difference it makes when you look at that quarterback when he comes in the huddle and it's like, all right, it's Jordan. Yeah, of course, every now and again I want to see some more fired up, but it sucks when that guy comes in the huddle and just looks dejected off the bat. And this is another one in a long line of instances where, he just comes in and he just has stones, dude. He was getting pushed around, shoved around, got knocked down quite a few times. I don't have the quarterback hit numbers on me, but his jersey was dirty the whole night, and he didn't let it get to him. He was just delivering the ball. He obviously got a little lucky here and there, but I mean, those are the breaks you need to win in this league consistently, and it's not like they were living off of those at any point of the game. He had the only play that really was lucky was the wobbler down the middle of the field to Watson, where it. I do think Collinsworth is right that he meant to float it over the safety that's dropping into the coverage zone, but he didn't want it to have dog ears like it did, as JT O'Sullivan would call it. He calls most of us call it a duck, a dying duck, but JT O'Sullivan calls it having dog ears. But those are the kind of plays where when it's your night, it's those plays are getting completed. He had some perfectly thrown, he had some tight spirals in the first half that were dropped, and so. Hey, sometimes you've got to get the soft toss ball, the bocce ball that goes down the middle of the field. Sometimes that's the one that's going to get caught and make a big play for you. And the main thing for this game is that this team just kept, it didn't look like it in the first half, but through halftime and into the second half, this team just kept on fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And that's the kind of resiliency that's going to keep winning you games as the season goes along.
Speaking of fire, I put this out there on the socials, but being that these two teams really aren't like rival teams because they don't play each other all the time. What was with all the heat between the two of them? They seem to be like getting into fights every other down. So I mean, I love to see the energy, but it's weird. It's not like a Lions Packers game or a Bears Packers game.
I think it's one of those where it just shows the respect that these two teams have for each of their quarterbacks, because from the Steelers' point of view, I think they're like, let's get Rodgers that 30-second pelt to put on the wall kind of thing. And also, this team just got embarrassed on Thursday Night Football, and it's like, you can't go get punked 10 days ago and come and get punked at home this time and stuff. So I think you combine those 2 points, and that's where Pittsburgh being chippy all night is. Plus, you've got a couple guys football players all have loose screws in their head, but DK is one of them that has several loose screws in his head. So that one wasn't too much of a surprise that at some point he popped off a little bit. And on the Packers side, for as much as, a lot of Packers reporters have made the point that only 13 guys, I see True North. As much as, like Domovsky and stuff made the point that only 13 guys on the team actually played the last time when Rodgers was on the roster. And of those 13, I think I counted like basically 8 of them were first-year players, whether it was Nixon as a free agent addition or the rookie draft class that year or undrafted free agents. So, it's like Rashawn played multiple years. Zach Tom barely played multiple. Oh, no, Zach Tom was a rookie. Rashawn played multiple years. Elton played multiple years. Barely McDuffie, because that was his second season, was 2022. And then from there, like I said, it gets a little tough to, like, off the top of my head, I can't even do it right now. So yeah, like, that just goes to show there aren't many ties, but in the same vein that the Steelers are looking at Rodgers and like, let's get him that 30-second pelt, everyone in the Packers org is like, we got to beat this guy. Like, we don't want we don't want Aaron to have this over Jordan, all that. This is probably the last time the two are going to play each other unless they meet in the Super Bowl kind of thing. So I do think there's a bunch of the guys on the team who are like, we're going to do not just for Jordan, but it's like that extra, like, when you're tired at the moment and it's like, we're going to do it for our quarterback kind of thing. And I think that's part of it. Part of the reason I'm a little disappointed in LaFleur taking so long to adjust in the first half is I was like, come on, Matt. Like, you also need to prove that you can do it with anyone at quarterback, and not just anyone, the guy you handpicked to replace him kind of thing. So, but I think in the end, both sides of that played out for the Packers. And really, if you look at how this game flowed, it's the decision to start McManus that really almost sent this game off the skids in the first half, because you go down, you take momentum.
Before you go on to your rant about McManus, why don't we go into our normal routine here?
See, this is why this guy is the head honcho. I'm just here to be loud and...
It's some Modici.
See, I messed up. I hit the wrong one anyway.
Fresh cheese.
There we go.
we're gonna get Joe going. We need to get Joe's points in case we lose him later on in the podcast.
If I pass out, just remember, I Mike gets everything. So I'm going to go with the first one, and it's the lowest of low hanging fruit. It's got to be Tucker Kraft. That guy has been amazing. I'm not sure. I believe he's eligible for an extension, or is it next year he can uh, get his extension? Because I know it's like the third year. Yeah, I think the third year they can start talking extensions.
Yeah, the history for the Packers is they've generally tried to sign guys either November or later of the third season, or in the off season between third and fourth season, given that there's no injury. It gets a little dicey with like Elton, who got injured in his third season and stuff like that.
So, yeah, guy was a beast. Even went out for what was it? Was like it wasn't even a play or anything like that. They had just finished up their drive, and then he set out for the defensive drive and came back in, and you wouldn't have thought anything was wrong with him. I'm trying to get my stats up here. 7 receptions, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns on 9 targets with a long of 59. Now, the one downside to what he did, obviously he had the one that hit him in the hands that, should have been a catch but wasn't a catch. And that's really the only negative you can say out of him. After that, he was a whole new player, and he really went out there, gave it his all. Burn down some childhood homes. Speaking of, go over to the Oak Shop and take pity on a poor sick man and buy some shirts. And, like I said, I've said this before, he's got to have been our best tight end we've had in a long time.
This is like the best performance since Jermichael in the wild card game against the Cardinals. In terms of like just overall production in a single game. If you just go by counting stats, the like red herring in there is the Richard Rodgers film, the Richard Rodgers what's it called, Motor City Miracle moment, because he gets half the yards on the Hail Mary play and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think they showed that the most by a player in regular season was Richard Rodgers at like 146. And the most was Jermichael at 159, but that was in the playoffs.
Yeah. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, the funny thing is he only got 9 targets tonight, and you'd think that we stuffed him with like a dozen or something at least, but just just a great game from Tucker. Like you said, he's the kind of guy who's probably going to be more bothered by that 1 third down drop than any other play he made. But like, from the big plays he had in the first half, he has the touchdown on a perfect throw by Rodgers to beat Watt's outstretched hand. You have the seam ball, basically a seam ball that he catches that should have set up a scoring opportunity before the missed McManus long field goal. And then he catches the first YOLO ball. That was the other lucky play I forgot about. He catches the first YOLO ball from Rodgers. Some people are like, where's the OPI? I think the refs thought that ball got tipped or like was almost like a weird forward fumble. And so what's it called? So I think, he kind of just boxed him out like a field goal, like a rebound attempt in basketball. But either way, like you said, outside of the one drop on that third down, and the only reason you and I keep pointing at it was probably the easiest catch he would have had out of the whole game. Like, realistically, everything else was a little bit more contested or wasn't as good of a pass and all that kind of stuff. But you saw the whole Tucker Kraft experience, receiving, running after the catch. The fact that I know Chuck Clark isn't anyone special, but your 260-pound tight end ran away from a safety on a slant route. Like, there was no double move. There was no real rub or like any sort of massive humanity that Clark had to get through. That's just a straight up one-on-one coverage rep, and you just separated from a safety across the middle of the field. And that's the kind of stuff that makes him special. And on top of it, he gets injured on a run play, making a block where he kind of like lands on top of and under the pile and stuff. And luckily, I'm hoping it was just like he kind of got winded, or maybe he got a little bit of a stinger or something like that. Maybe a Charlie horse, who knows exactly. But like you said, he was coming in. He was gonna come in if the Rodgers thing was a fumble and was correctly officiated as at least intentional grounding, but he came in immediately on the ensuing drive and stuff. So yeah, like you said, missed no time outside of the end of the previous Packers drive. So great day at the office from Tucker. And yeah, that's one of the most guaranteed contracts. Like, he'd have to do something absolutely heinous. Yeah. Like, something outside of football would have to happen for him not to get paid all the money. And for everyone like wondering why haven't they done anything, Tucker is the guy that they are setting up, from how they structured the Parsons deal to how Love's contract is structured. Keeping a guy like Tucker is exactly why they're set up the way they are, because he is the guy who's getting paid next. Thank you, True North, for rolling me into my
before you get into yours,
oh yeah,
I gotta ask, when do we start giving Tucker the Chuck Norris treatment? Where, instead of Tucker getting Charlie horses, he gives Charlie's horse a Tucker.
He had to come out of the game, so I can't give it to him tonight. This one, we're gonna, as much as I've talked up Jordan, mine is gonna go to Quay Walker, who I thought had a pretty solid, like a pretty good game tonight. Was active in the run defense, got some pressures on Aaron, made the nice play up the seam in coverage. But his most impactful play, and you and I have talked about this since 2022, where ever since his last ejection against the Lions, where he totally owned up to the moment. He's admitted it was really childish, really stupid of him to push the training staff. And you could see it on the kid's face walking up the Lambeau tunnel at the end of that game, where you could see him talking to himself like, what was that? How did I do that? Why was I so stupid? And, Lions fans like to try and dredge that up. He has had 0 incidents since that point in time. And whatever Zen Buddhist shit he's done since then, I'm sure he was talking mad junk back to DK Metcalf that helped push DK over the edge. But he got not just the hand to the chin, he got poked in or DK tried to poke him in the eye or hook his lip or nose or whatever. Didn't do anything. And then DK shoved him in the face, still didn't do anything. So good job, Quay Walker. Like I said, great job in between the whistles and great job after the whistle today, just keeping a cool head. But I don't think he gets enough credit for that role that he got on for that 4-week time period late last season before he freaking boloed his ankle in Seattle. We were wondering, is that really who he's going to be? Or is that just he's getting a little desperate kind of thing? I am so glad that it has turned out that he is that guy is who he is. And that one, he's seen the light and has decided that he's going to play that way. But also, two, that Halfley also has acknowledged, this is what we have to do to get the best out of Quay, and we're going to let him do it. And, we might give up a few things here and there and stuff because we're a little more aggressive with him. But it goes back to the whole, make mistakes at 100 miles per hour, because sometimes you'll turn those mistakes into other people's mistakes. You know what I mean? Maybe he's not supposed to blitz or not supposed to hit a gap, but because he does it aggressively, it forces a quarterback to dump the ball faster, or it forces a back to cut into help and stuff. It doesn't always mean you're going to make it. It's when, it's the whole thing with guys jumping offside on defense. And it's just go run at the quarterback. At that point, you're not getting back. All these offenses are too good at quick snapping the ball. Every time it's the same as why I hate when defenders jump at passes. I'm run through the quarterback. The chances of you tipping a pass on a good quarterback are very low. And you're just opening yourself up to a bigger play by jumping. And so it's just do the thing you were doing already and just finish it. So if you jump offside, just run and touch the quarterback or run and touch someone, because that's you're already getting penalized no matter what. Don't give up the free play kind of thing and stuff. So, but getting it back to Quay, he's just been playing so well this season overall. I don't give a shit what his PFF grade is. I don't care about that shit. he's just his activity, his aggressiveness has really helped this defense at the times where it's looked like it's teetering a little bit. And I know he doesn't have like the flashy stats tonight like he did last week, but I thought that there were several moments where he brought an edge to this game and really helped out the defense.
Well, I can't say they're not too flashy. I mean, 5 tackles and 2 pass breakups. I mean, that's pretty solid for what you're wanting out of the guy. Yeah, he didn't get a sack or anything, but he, to my knowledge, I don't remember him rushing too much. He was more dropping, staying back a bit. Edge rushed a little bit more, but I'm all for it. I've really been on Quay's side for a while. Yeah, he's made some mistakes, but, he's gotten better with time. And we've said this, we've always held this through because, we have more draft mind than anything. It's a draft and develop. And the thing about it is it's always the 3-year rule. First year, they're learning how to play in the NFL. The second rule is learning how to play for the team, and the third is when they put it all together. And he's really started to put it all together. I understand that they didn't they held back his 5th-year option, but now you're starting to wonder, are they going to be able to sign him? Because now he's starting to make him more money. So, I hope they can keep him around because him and Edge have been a hell of a duo. And, again, not to keep busting this, but, trading for Micah Parsons, you lost your 2 first-rounders, so you can't really replace him with a first-round pick going forward. So, he's starting to prove that he's one of the better ones in the league right now. And you got to keep him around. There's no doubt about it. You're going to take the good with the bad. He is going to have his moments where you're going to wonder, Quay, what the hell were you doing? Not everybody's there's no such thing as a perfect player in the NFL. You've got to, everybody makes a mistake.
Yep. What else you got fresh?
Sorry, I'm hacking up a log. I guess my next one I got to do is Emmanuel Wilson. I mean, we all know what kind of player he can be, but he really showed it now. You also have to wonder with the rotation that they were having with him and Jacobs. Calf is really starting to bug him now. I know they took him off the injury report, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's still not feeling effects from it. But, Emmanuel Wilson, I don't know if I would trust Emmanuel Wilson as like a true number 1 back, but as a running back by committee, I have no problems having him out there. He's able to do it in both rushing and catching. So, yeah, I got to give him his props today.
Yep. I think he's not special from like an athleticism standpoint, or he's not a flashy player. But I tweeted it during the game. I appreciated that if you're coming from an under center formation, he's just gonna take off from the deep back position and run at the line of scrimmage at full speed. And there's value in that. Like so many of his runs are the product of just effort and leg drive. He's not doing, and he's not gonna jump cut like a LaDainian Tomlinson or anything like that. He's not gonna. He's getting better at setting up blockers and pressing the hole and stuff. But his best runs are when they run inside zone or inside dives, and it's just like you set up 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, you start running full speed. Jordan's gonna hand you the ball, and you just burrow your way for as many yards as you can. And I mean, that's how he converted the final 3rd down of the game. Is it's just like the gaps in the right A gap, hit it. If you get it, if you don't get it, oh well, the clock's running. If you get it, awesome, game is over, kind of thing. And like I said, he's gained, I want to say, like a 1/3 of his rushing yards just because he just runs. Like everyone's like, oh, you need to nuance, you need to have acceleration and throttle in your running to set up blocks and stuff. he's the kind of guy where it's like, no, I'm just gonna put I'm putting my foot through the floor, and the throttle is all the way down, and we're just gonna drag people if we have to, kind of thing. And some of those, and I do think that did dog Jacobs at points this game, is because he's kind of like trying to set defenders up and stuff. And this field is so bad that it's like, you just got to make the first move, and it's like, and if you just have to hit the guy, you just have to hit the guy, kind of thing. And like, I think Wilson deserves his flowers on a day where, like you said, he kind of was like I think, like, I do wonder how much running they would have done if they didn't have like 4 3-and-outs in the first half. But you saw it as the game went on, where it's like, 11 carries for 61 yards, so 5.5 a pop. Like, no one wants to tackle that kind of guy in the fourth quarter of a game, especially when you're already down a score or two. So there's benefit to that, and he's going to continue to have a role in Green Bay so long as, Marshawn can't stay healthy, or even if they draft another kid next year, they're going to rely on Wilson because he has turned into a very reliable player. My next one, I can't believe he's sat this long. It's Jordan. Like, what a game from Jordan. Like I said, he had a couple YOLO ball moments, the one to Kraft where he kind of just floats it out there. And then, like I said, I don't think he intended it to be, but because it wasn't the tightest spiral, the one down to the 5-yard line to Watson ended up being sort of a YOLO ball moment as well, kind of stuff. But I tweeted it after the game that if you look at his stats, since everyone's comparing what he does in his career to Aaron, if you look at his stats versus what Aaron did in the Super Bowl, and I know the stage is different and all that kind of stuff, but he pretty much matched Rodgers stat for stat in terms of his passing production. And same thing, kind of like Rodgers, his stat line should have been better if weren't like 3 bad drops in the mix too. So just such a good night. The touchdown to Kraft, the first touchdown to Kraft, he places that ball perfectly around Watt's outstretched hand. He has the late third down conversion to Dobbs where he puts it on the perfect arc over the top of the late dropping corner into the flat zone. The one Kraft drops, it's a perfect pass. Even the early one that Dobbs couldn't reel in down the sideline, that ball is just exactly where it needs to be. And then I think on top of it, he never lost a moment of timing with Watson. Him and Watson are still very much on top of their A game together. I'm so happy for Christian Watson, for Christian to be back on the field today. Bears fans are forever going to be like, oh, Caleb is 1-0 against Jordan Love in Green Bay. That game meant absolute shit nothing to the Packers once Watson went down. You could tell that they all, to a man, were kind of like, well, fuck, there goes our chance. I don't want to say the whole chance to beat Philly the next week, but the chance they had to make any sort of hay against the Eagles in the wild card round went out the window when Watson's knee disintegrated on the Lambeau turf that day on week 18 last season. And the impact that he had on this game was absolutely immense. I still wish they had taken a true deep shot to him early in the game. I do think it's a little weird to have him and Golden out there. And I'll say it all the time. I love Dobbs, but I think LaFleur almost tried to 4D chess it a little too heavily, where it was well, they know that we're going to throw deep to Watson and Golden, so let's send Dobbs deep, kind of thing. And it's that's great, but Dobbs literally just converted a dig route into a 20-yard gain earlier. I get that you have to cut against tendencies every once in a while, but LaFleur, sometimes just have your guys do the shit they're best at and let your offense thrive. And this goes into the whole having Jacobs try to run toss sweeps from shotgun, having Dobbs try to be either the deep threat or the guy who's got to make 2 juke moves in right off the catch to get separation, to make yards out of a short throw. Don't overthink the game. And I'm going to get out of the rant early for now. This isn't the time for it, but I'm going to kind of tie Watson into this one. I didn't think he would have this kind of impact. I thought that, they were going to, I would hope they would throw him a true deep ball at some point, kind of like the opening play of the 2023 Thanksgiving game in Detroit. just to kind of like, put the fear of God into the defense that way, kind of thing, like to show like, oh yeah, he's not just a decoy, he's really for real out here. But for him to go out there, go 4 for 4 on targets, average over 20 yards a reception, and make really three of the biggest plays in the game at a given point where, he has what should have led to a field goal if our kicker wasn't, at halftime. He has that nice catch on the sideline. He catches the YOLO ball over the middle, and then he catches that crossing route later in the game to convert a first down for the offense. And he's digging guys out in the run game on Wilson's like 15-yard run. He's the guy that seals the edge defender inside. Wilson bounces that ball outside. Like, it's so good to have Watson back, and I am curious if we see them pare down the receiver snaps at this point. I do think it's going to stay a little bit spread out because Watson's definitely on some kind of snap count, and you can't, I'm surprised he played as much and as well as he did on this turf in Pittsburgh. But overall, you can't over or understate how important Watson was to the game tonight. He made a world of a difference. And I've seen some people make the point, Tucker's impact it's multiplied by having Watson out there, because any sort of bracket coverage, you can't put it over the top of him if Watson is out there. So super important for Watson to be back out there. And it just gives Pookie another guy to throw the ball to in any situation.
Well, and you can throw Malik Heath in there because he was targeted 3 times, made 3 catches, and made some plays out there. That's why with bringing Watson back, and how do I say this? It's not lucky that Wicks is hurt, but it's fortuitous that they have Heath there to be able to fill in spots. But you wonder how that's going to go going forward, because once Watson's off his snap count, once Wicks is back healthy, is Heath going to be a healthy scratch going forward or what? Because that doesn't make sense with what he gives when he's out there. But yeah, Jordan looked great. I was trying to look it up while you were talking, but I couldn't seem to find it. Is this the most he's thrown in a game? 360?
No, I want to say one of those Vikings, like the first Viking game last year. I thought he's definitely hit 400.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I was trying to look it up. I know just a couple weeks ago against the Cowboys he hit 3.
Oh, I lied. It's only 389.
Okay, 389. But, just to kind of hit a couple things here, Steelers, like I said, I've never had an issue with the Steelers. The only issue I've had with Rodgers over the year is just more because he seems to not be all there in the head more than what he's gave to the Packers. And Bengals, at least we did something for you. I mean, other than, beating you a couple weeks ago, I'm glad we could at least do something for you guys. But yeah, Jordan looked great.
Make sure all the
when he was given the chance, and I'm sure that's something we'll talk about in our next couple of segments. But it showed that he can go out there and be what we need him to be. Watson looks solid coming back. I agree with you. He's going to be on some kind of pitch count. There's no doubt about it, because with as quick as he's been back. But I'm still surprised that they're not using Golden as much, and we'll get into that a little bit. Because with those two that can burn, that's going to be the easiest way to set up a deep pass. But I did like how they did start. Yeah, I guess you can give him that, but it was the same shit as always, make the catch, immediately go down. So, got to give him that. But, yeah, I know this is going to rub a certain person the wrong way if he hears it, but I don't see Watson being fully impactful for a while. I see him doing things like he did this game where he made a couple of great catches. He had some solid blocks, but I don't see him for a bit anyway, for a few games, being the guy that's going to get, 10 targets, 110 yards, and whatever. He's going to be a contributor. He's just not going to be a major player for a bit.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. It's just not realistic to expect him to be playing like, not that any of the Packers receivers do, but if they did, it would be unreasonable to expect him to come off and play like 80+% of the snaps, be targeted 10 times. That's just, I think his return and the game he's had tonight, it's going to put unreasonable expectations on like how much he should be doing on a week to week basis. Cause it's like, oh my God, he looks that good on the first game back, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. But it's like his knee disintegrated in January of this calendar year. And some days are going to feel good. We don't know if he's going to wake up tomorrow and be like, like it hurts kind of thing and stuff. So I think people just do need to temper their expectations. It's a really good sign that he came back today and, he looked explosive or he looked athletic. It's hard to say how explosive because this field is so bad, but he was getting open downfield. Like I said, if Love threw a tighter spiral, that might have been a touchdown to him on the play down the middle of the field because he had separation.
An interception because he might have dropped the angle of it.
Right. So, like, obviously, I would love for both of us to be wrong, and Watson is just fine and like has 800 yards the rest of the season kind of thing. I just don't think that's realistic to put those expectations on him, and I do trust the Packers are gonna like ease him back into a game, a full complement of snaps and stuff like that. And the thing is that he's just always been a guy who gets hurt kind of thing. And last year was different. He didn't have the hamstring issues. He really does seem to have sorted that out. But the thing you worry about is, do other things catch up to him because of the knee injury and stuff like that? The rehab, return to play from the knee injury and stuff. So you just hope that he's able to stay healthy. He has no setbacks, no like flare ups or anything like that. But what a return for him. And then, do you have any more for tonight? Or I got one more. That's why if you're not going to hit it.
Depending on what one you have, I kind of have two more, but
okay, go for it.
Go ahead with yours.
Oh, okay. So mine is just going to be your two top paid edge rushers came through today. And
okay, I have one more.
I wasn't expecting it because of how Rodgers gets rid of the ball, but they did do a good job where basically every play except for Carrington's pass breakup, they got pressure on any play where Rodgers tried to do a traditional drop back pass. Like anything where he was getting the ball out quick, there's nothing you can really do about that. You just, the best things you can do there is like pressure the short passes. You get the hit on the short receptions, like, Bullard bringing down Freiermuth really quick or things like that. Cooper bringing down Jalen Saunders out in the flat and stuff. But otherwise, or Jalen Warren, Saunders was the other guy. But you needed them to step up whenever it was a regular pass play. And Rodgers was jittery as all hell tonight whenever it was a standard pass play. Like I said, the only time he really got a pass downfield off on a regular play, Valentine broke it up in the end zone. So, just really good to see that from your top two guys. And not just for them to pressure Rodgers, but for them to get production out of it and to turn that into 3 sacks. And I'm really happy to see that both Rashawn and Micah are getting, rewarded for their efforts, so to speak, because Micah especially has done a whole lot of work for no counting stat. As much as you, me, and a lot of people appreciate how important pressuring the quarterback is and QB pressures, QB hits are, there is a point where it's like you do need to turn those into sacks or they're kind of like, yeah, buts. And especially because we're not getting a ton of interception opportunities on the back end either. So really good to see those opportunities turned into sacks tonight.
And that's basically what I was going to say. They did a great job of getting Micah, lined up all over the place. They Rashawn was getting pressure, Edge was getting pressure, all that stuff was going great. So yeah, I don't have really much more to add to that. I did think of another one, so I'm going to throw it out there real quick. Carrington Valentine, for a guy that was getting like no reps the last couple of weeks, he stepped up, covering DK Metcalf, was having a hell of a game, to the point where another fresh take that I can throw out there, which is probably going to be a non-Packer take, is Aaron Rodgers was good, and Carrington played well enough that Rodgers veered away from him and targeted Nixon. And you can put those two together as a fresh take, and so that's where I got to go with it. Carrington was played solid tonight.
So, I mean, other than that, like I said, I think we've touched all the bases. And then just to highlight it again, just I'm so proud of this team for fighting back the way they did in the second half. Like that's long been a thing, and that's long been a point of contention with this team. Like, oh, do they care enough? Do they, they're trying hard enough? All that kind of stuff. They could have either rolled over and died or fought back to get back in the game, and it was really good to see them come back guns blazing in the second half.
Yeah, so I guess we can
Yep.
move on to the next one. Let me see if I hit the right one this time.
What's this stale shit?
Lead it off.
So I the one that I think I'm going to stick with is, I think I'm going to lean this more into stale, but it could easily go into moldy, and that is the kicker situation. Why they didn't have both those guys active for this game, I'm not sure of. I'm going to combine this one. Let's just go with the Packers roster decision when it comes to active and non-active. Why they didn't have Lucas active for this game, I don't know. You take a chance when McManus is coming off injury. Why not bring Brinson over Stackhouse? I don't know.
I'll give them a break on that. I'm going to say I think that's injury related, and we'll find out if Brinson practices on Wednesday or not. So I'm not
Okay.
I'm not dicing them up over that one.
Well, I'll just put it this way. Mike Spofford was doing the chat room thing for Packers, and I kind of threw that out there. That it's interesting that they went Stackhouse over Brinson, and he just said that it was more. He thinks it was more to do with run game defense than anything. It's like, yeah, but Brinson can give you both. So to choose Stackhouse over Brinson, then that was kind of a weird decision. But if you think it's an injury, then that's possible. But that still leads to McManus. What? I understand you got to get him back out there, but what happens on this turf if he takes a misstep and re-aggravates the quad? Then what do? I don't think you can let Lucas play after that as an emergency guy. I know they do that with quarterbacks, but you
No,
can't
there's
do
no
that.
there's no emergency kicker. It's wheeling kicking.
Which wouldn't break my heart any. He has a history of it. But as anybody who's listened to the show for a while now, neither one of us were overly excited to pick up Brandon McManus as is. And I'm hoping this isn't the downfall that we were looking towards when it came to him. But now what this does is open up a kicker controversy. Well, kind of what I said to Jason Perone on the Elon machine, and we've discussed it here. Has Haversick been outkicking his coverage? Is he playing above what he is? Because you've talked about it where he's struggled in the past. He's not been the kicker that we're seeing now. So is there a chance that, let's say McManus, you're sitting the rest of the year, Haversick, you're taking over? What's to say 2 games down the line, we don't have the same type of game out of Haversick. So I hate that he's opened up this kicker controversy. And I agree with Jason. I can't say that you can't talk about getting rid of a player just because of, well, he just signed a 3-year deal. Well, with kickers, it's not like massive deals like a Jair situation.
You're still saving money the next few years if you cut him now. So like that conversation means nothing to me. Like, so yeah, I get where you're going with, and like you said, the way that this gets into the dumb and moldy section is, to me, this is the Zach Tom at Cleveland situation all over again, where it's a little different because what's it called? Zach, I'm sure the team kind of talked Zach into it, where because like during the week he was like, I'm not feeling it, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go. Whereas McManus has been like, I'm going to kick, I'm going to do it, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I know we're on the same pages. Okay, that's fine if you want to activate McManus, but on this turf, there is absolutely no reason to not figure out a way to have Haversick up too. Because if McManus hits a divot, and there was a point in the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game where I thought Boswell could have blown his knee out because the turf gave out under his foot. If McManus steps a little wrong and re-aggravates the quad, where are you? Like, what are you doing in that situation? Like, that's what you're getting at. And it's the same thing. It's like, you don't know how he's going to feel after that first kick. Like, he might dig in a cleat. He could step, the turf could give out him. He might have to make a tackle and blow it out again when he goes to like take on contact and stuff like that. So yeah, I do feel like it's just one of those short-sighted decisions. And so on the other side of it, it's like, you have Haversick, and yeah, I get what you and Perone are going back and forth on. It's like, how much do you push the luck with how good Haverick's look, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But to me, my whole thing with McManus is he's 30, he's older than me, and he might be older than you.
Yeah, but I'm older than you.
Yeah, but it's that whole, like, when an athlete is that old, if you have a serviceable, and at bare minimum, Haversick is a serviceable option to replace. He's kicking better than McManus has this season, regardless of injury. So why go when like he's still not kicking on his normal routine? And I know some people are like, oh, that doesn't mean. Yes, it fucking does. Kickers are up there with some of the most neurotic, weird people, where it's like, if I don't put my shoes on the right way and I don't put my pants on with the certain leg at the certain time, my whole day's off, kind of thing. Like, they're those kind of people. Why are you having a guy go out there and be your only option when he's still not absolutely 100%? Not, I feel 100%, or, oh, I'm good to go. Like, there is no reason to be playing that kind of dice. And it absolutely could have screwed the Packers tonight. Like, that's the thing, is like, for a half, it was. You had momentum up 7-3, you drive, and this goes into also decision-making by LaFleur. Why are you deciding to kick a field goal with a guy who missed 2 games with an injury, still isn't totally off the injury report, and you're like, I'm going to have him bomb a 57-yarder. I don't care what's in the new kicker footballs. Unless there's a freaking rocket in it that shoots it at the field goal post, there is no reason that you should be like, yeah, we're going to go kick the 57-yarder. It's like, dumbass.
And it wasn't even close.
No, and that's the thing is like, okay, maybe in a dome. Like, if they were in Arizona, I'm like, okay, it's in a dome. Like, sure, why not? This is Pittsburgh. This is one of the hardest places, bar none, to kick a field goal in the NFL, in any of the American football stadiums in the world. Why are you sending a geriatric kicker out there to try to kick that field goal when he's coming off an injury? And not only does he miss, but you set up an easy field goal opportunity, because basically once the Steelers cross the 45, that's field goal range for Boswell. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. Tomlin's like, well, screw it, we're in scoring range now. Like, I don't care what happens at this point. He couldn't have known, but Green Bay's offense ain't going to do anything for the rest of the half, so we're fine kicking here. So, like, going in, when I saw what the inactives were, I was like, you are putting all your chips on luck, because really it is luck that he got out of the game injury free, no setbacks or anything, against probably the best all-around kicker in the NFL based, when you adjust for like where he kick. He's not kicking on turf, he's kicking on the second worst field possible. He kicks in a stadium that has some of the trickiest winds to read and all that kind of stuff. And Boswell is just nuking every kick he attempts. So, like, in the end, it's like, oh, they could have had 6 more points. No, like, you turned what should have been a first half that you had control of into a nail biter because you made this decision to start McManus off injury. So, yeah, that's a black mark.
Okay, I got another stale real quick, and it's this comment right here. Hey, unlike Jair, at least I'm here doing my job, putting on this fine entertainment for you with the frog in my voice or in my throat, feeling like shit. So you take that back, True. I fully do not support this comment.
Also, in Jair's defense, he's not on IR. He's a healthy scratch. But okay, the other side of it, it's Keyshawn. Like, he's been up and down this season. I did think
before you go on your rant on this, I do want to say about Keyshawn that that DPI that was called against him. I do think those are bullshit calls.
Yes,
because there's no other way that he can play that, and there's nothing else he can do. He was legit in fine coverage. It just so happens that Rodgers underthrows it, quote unquote, underthrows it, and the receiver has to come back for it and can't come back for it. So that's an automatic pass interference.
Yeah, I'm not holding that one against. Some people are like, oh, he's got to turn around and look. I was like, I don't think he knows that it's that off target. Like, and you're right. He does try to get his head around. That pass is so bad. Like, it's bad. Rodgers is just throwing it, hoping to get DPI at that point. I know there's no way to, like, officiate that part of it, but it's kind of like, Bukowski had the tweet last week that you shouldn't be able to draw DPI on slot fades, no matter how by the letter of the law it is, purely because half the time it's bad quarterbacks making shitty throws, and, I get it, like, you can't write that into a rule book, but stop rewarding bad throws with flags that just they legitimately reward offenses with.
I don't think that was a bad throw, though. I think that was a purpose throw.
Oh, I say bad in terms of, like, there was no intent for Austin to catch that ball. That's where I'm saying it's a bad throw. Yeah. But yeah. So Nixon, it's like, my thing with Nixon is he's in the stale, not the moldy, because he did play better in the second half. Granted, how much of that was game situation, Rodgers not being able to target him down the field. There is still an issue with that. But he did recover. He gave up the long pass early because he kind of quit on the play like the last Sunday Night Football game. I know some people are going to say he lost the ball, but I'm like, you got to keep running. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I don't see it, it must be done. And it's like, no, it's 6 yards behind you. It's like, bro, you better find your guy and keep running to catch him kind of thing. Like, that can't be he lost the ball. Like, no, that's not an excuse. You have a couple plays around the DPI. The slant to DK, like, I'm not even going to get that much on him. He's playing the fade, and sometimes you just rock, paper, scissors, lose those kind of moments. And at that point, he's just boxed out. There's nothing he can do there. Second half, I thought he played a better game. There was one play late in the game where I'm like, it's the one where Jalen Warren catches the flat, and he's kind of running up the sideline, and Nixon kind of does that, like, half Olay bullshit where he, like, goes to push him out of bounds but doesn't push him out of bounds, and it's like, dude, you better smoke that guy. Like, don't just, and I'm sure he'll be like, oh, I didn't know if I was gonna just smoke his ass out of bounds. You're up 2 scores, really 2.5 because it was 16 at that point. Just light him the fuck up, and if they're gonna play stupid great games, let him win stupid prizes kind of thing. But for the most part, like, yes, it's stale because it's like, you can still see where this is an issue moving forward. But I do need to give credit to Keyshawn for not just totally sinking and letting it be like just an he had an awful first half, but second half he wasn't nearly as bad kind of thing. So like I said, it's kind of like when you earmark the like, is LaFleur too conservative? Like it's in that bin where it's like, we can see that this is going to be an issue kind of thing. I don't know how they're going to fix it. Thank God they at least played Carrington out there. And then, hey, if you just battle it out between Hobbs and Nixon at this point, fine. Like, I don't care. Carrington proved he needs to play tonight, and you figure out the rest of it from there. Like, that's where I'm at this point.
And I've said it all along. Nixon has never shown himself to be a true number one corner. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, he had a couple of games this year that he seemed to be lights out, but was that because we were playing teams that didn't have great receivers, didn't have great quarterbacks, whatever you want to call it? Or did the pass rush bail him out? And so now I'm not saying he's a horrible player by any means. He's been solid, but yeah, he's not a true number one. So something has to be done, whether it's and it's obviously going to have to be at the end of the season. I know there's rumors out there that they're making phone calls on players, but even if they bring somebody in, they'd have to get up to speed too quickly to make a meaningful impact. So yeah, he definitely was rough, and that's why I said earlier that you could tell that Rodgers knew who his weak link was, and that's where he targeted more often than not.
And honestly,
right.
Like I said, the way it's stale is because we all thought this was a game where Nixon's going to give up like 12 of 14 for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the second half of the game. Like that's where we all thought. I see you, True North. I don't think Melton's quite ready yet. But you know what? Maybe you throw him out there here and there, like season him in kind of thing and stuff, and you kind of just live with it and stuff. But this goes back to my still point with LaFleur. Figure your shit out faster, get your offense on track faster, so that you can be up multiple scores, and then you can put Bo Melton in an actual game when you're up 3 scores late in the fourth quarter. Like, that's the thing, is like, I totally understand that you have, you're going to put your eggs in the Carrington, Keyshawn, Nate Hobbs baskets to start the season. I have no problem with that. But for the love of bejesus, score as many points as you can early so that your team doesn't have to defend the run late. That's how you take the taxing effect off your defense so they don't have to be beat on for a whole 4 quarters. You can get Rashawn, Parsons, all your pass rushers, all the stats because they're just in takeoff mode to go and hunt the quarterback. And then you can start to play your like tertiary, secondary players to see maybe Bo is actually just ready. I don't think he is. Based on where he was in the preseason, it would be an impressive leap for him to take technique-wise to be where he needs to be a viable NFL corner. But maybe it is sort of a Sam Shields-ish thing where you're just like, you know what? Just put the fast guy out there. We know he likes to hit people. We know he tackles well. I don't think we're there yet, but I won't. If anyone suggests it, I'm not going to burn people for saying it because, honestly, if Carrington is going to be... really, if any of the players are going to prove to be just dead ducks for a whole game, you've got to just start throwing stuff at the wall and seeing whatever will stick. Like, this season has too much on it. You haven't gone all in because obviously you haven't like Mike Ditka your draft class kind of thing, but like you've gone about as all in as you realistically can for a season. So you've got to look under every rock, check every cranny to see if you have solutions on roster. And like I said, I'll get into the floor of it. This is again like the Nixon thing where it's like the first half was rough, but the second half we adjusted. Yes, he still ran it. I know some people are like, oh, like he ran it too many times. He's never not going to run the ball here and there. That's just not in his DNA. He did pare it down a lot to where it was like, I'm going to run it one time every 3 play, I'm going to, and there is like unknown factor on how important the run game is to his offense functioning properly, where it's like, can it just be pass, 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 pass? I don't know, but then you have the sequence where it's like, I'm going to run it 3 times and then throw it on 4th down and stuff. And thank God that pass play to Tucker worked, because it's true. That's hilarious. You know what? Why not? But I'm like, I appreciate that he did adjust. We saw him go to more quick pass stuff in the second half, but he still took his shots in between. There was a little bit more variation in his route structure where guys were open short. You have the throw to Musgrave, you have the throw to Fitzpatrick, you have the throws to Jacobs, where you're not getting any chunks or anything, but you're gaining a few yards to like stay even with the chain. You're not going from 2nd and 10 to 3rd and 12 or anything, or 3rd and 10 kind of thing. You're at least 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 kind of thing. You're manageable-ish and stuff. But my whole thing with him is like, you're this offensive savant, and the one that screams to my mind is the Cincinnati game, where it's like, we got into halftime and we were like, oh, they're playing more cover 2 than we expected. I'm like, it took you 2 whole quarters to figure that out and recognize it? Like, you should. I'll give you 2 drives, because it's like, okay, is the one drive a tendency breaker, and are they going to go back to their usual stuff the second drive? When you get into 3, 4, 5 drives and they're still doing the same thing, buddy, you need to adjust. Like, you cannot tell me, oh, we came in all week expecting single high coverage and they played cover 2 for the whole half. They played it for a whole half. You need to adjust. Like, you cannot just sit there and let them do the thing to you. And I do think he got a little run heavy, but also it's so hard for me to totally bust him when you have 3 third down plays that should absolutely work, where 2 are clear drops, one by Dobbs, one by Tucker, and then the other one is a sideline fade that Dobbs, we can debate if it's a drop or not kind of thing, but I need Dobbs to make that play. If you're going to be an NFL receiver, you got to help your quarterback out in that scenario. And, some people are like, oh, he was trying to break out. Like, the corner had no fucking clue where the ball was. He's got to come down. He's got to make a better attempt to come down with that pass. He kind of like almost patty caked it away. So I'm not going to totally burn LaFleur, because, hey, this offense went score after halftime. But it's like, we need a few more of those in the first half, LaFleur. And, like, Sam Congato, bless his soul, and, like, he always admits he's probably a little bit more pessimistic than he needs to be. But the things he's saying, like, they're more on the pessimistic side of the fence. But the root cause of it that he's saying is, he's like, this team always just wastes a half doing nothing on one side of the ball or the other. And, yes, you can't expect NFL teams to play full 4-quarter games in October, but we're in a trend. This is another trend, and this is why it's in the stale. It's like, come on, LaFleur. Like, there's a point where you got to take your 15-play script and just throw it in the trash can. Like, if it ain't working, or if whatever you thought they were going to do ain't what they're doing, throw that thing, just huck that thing into the stands and start calling some different plays. And like I said, better late than never. You got, what is it? You got touchdown, field goal, and then kneel out the game. So, like, you went 5 straight scores out of halftime and then end the game. So, like, I'm not going to put it in moldy, because you did steer out of the skid, but it's like, why were you steering into it for a whole half? Like, gotta fix that. And like I said, there's some nuance in there, because this isn't just he was totally banging his head against the wall the whole first half. There were drops in there that screwed up drives and stuff, and then you had the weird, like, should have been roughing the passer, but it wasn't thing and all that crap. But it's like, come on, LaFleur. You can't have one scoring drive, second that should have been a scoring drive that ends in a missed field goal, and everything else is like a 3 and out. Like, that can't be your offense for a whole half.
Yeah, I've only got one more stale that I can throw out there. Then we can, if you don't have anything else, we can move into the moldy. And this is going to sound weird, but the usage of Matthew Golden. And there were a couple of times during this game where you saw Matthew get open, but Love didn't look towards him. And I get the whole, well, quarterback has to, do so many things, but I think it was Collinsworth that called it out that Golden would have been wide open and walked in for a touchdown on one of the slants near the goal line. There was another one that I did see that the defender was kind of sneaking up, but had you placed it in the right spot, there was a quick out that Golden ran that Love saw it and then he moved off of it real quick. And I get that there was a defender closing in, but you still could have hit him for the first down because I don't think that play ended up going for a first down anyway. So I get that he's young. I get that he's a rookie, but he's shown to be more than capable. And why they're not using him more these last couple days has been, or last couple games, has been really kind of frustrating because I get you want to get Dobbs touches. I get because that's Jordan's guy. I get wanting to get Watson back in there because that's, who they're wanting. But you spent the draft capital on this guy. He's worth it. Get him some more touches out there and not just these quick hitches out to the flat and say, okay, well, here you go. This is your play. Go for it.
Yep, I agree with you. It's the one late in the game. I do understand, and my nitpick with that is like, if you weren't gonna throw to, I think Love kind of looked at Golden on that one is like, he should walk in, but I think he's like, I don't want to chance any sort of turnover that's going to take points off the board kind of thing. But if that's the case, it's like, you should have just run the ball to run the clock down more kind of thing and stuff. So like, and I would have had no real problem with it, but it's like, it just looks so weird where he kind of just throws a give up ball to Wilson on a wheel route kind of thing. And I'm like, and yeah, it's one of those where it's like, okay, like, what's the intent of that play? It's like, were you ever going to try to bang it in on the inside for a touchdown? Or was it like, if the whatever first read you had isn't there, you're just chucking it out of bounds to like not risk a turnover? Then it's like, you should have just run the ball. Maybe Wilson pops through for a touchdown, or at worst, you'd run 40 seconds off the clock. Like that one, it's kind of like, it looked so weird in real time. And I agree with you that the one to the flat, I can't put a finger on it. It's one of those where if he had treated Golden as the initial read, I wonder if he throws that route because it's like, oh yeah, it's open. But I wonder if he's looking downfield and then by the time he comes to Golden, he's still open. But like you said, that defender's coming downhill and it's like, is there a risk kind of thing? And
Without
like I said,
able to see what he was seeing, it looked helmet wise that he saw Golden first and then went. So I don't know, but without seeing what he's seeing.
Yeah. And and that's the thing with like reads is like sometimes what's it called? You look one way first to try and draw multiple defenders out of a different throwing lane and stuff like that. I don't know how their reads work. I don't know what the sequencing is. This is one of those games where I'm kind of like, maybe just throw it and get whatever you can kind of thing, especially because the first half was such a slog to move the ball. But yeah, I do want the main point you're making is one I agree with, where I want there to be more plays where like the thing is designed to get the ball to Golden and not like at the line of scrimmage. Like let him, because he's shown he can run real receiver stuff. Like that was a big part of the Cincinnati game is like he bailed you out of a lot of bad situations in that game. So it's like, let him run some actual receiver stuff and scheme him up to be the first read on those plays and not just like behind the line of scrimmage. And like I said, this is one where I didn't like how he or Jacobs handled those opportunities this game, where when you're on a bad field, you can't jitterbug back there. Like, you can do that on turf. You can do that on a perfectly manicured grass field. On this shitty field, you need to be the aggressor. You need to create the angle, and you can cut off of that afterwards. After defenders have, like, shown what pursuit angles they're going to take to you, you can either jet it up the sideline or you can cut back inside afterward. But that whole, like, catch it, sit there for a step, and then, like, survey, and then try to make a move, that's not going to work because as much as they might struggle with traction, you're not going to get up to top speed good either kind of thing. So that's one kind of like nitpicky thing and stuff. But yeah, I agree with you that And I get it. There's only one football. There's only there's only so many plays or passes in a game, all that kind of stuff. But I do need to see them take advantage of the talent that Golden is. I do think we're going to see that as Watson gets more involved, as defenses do more to try and take away Tucker from the offense. Golden is the guy who should benefit from that. I also do think this is sort of a byproduct of it's like Golden is going to be a perimeter receiver and Jaden Reed gets hurt early, where it's like, oh, like, and like I said, the Packers do try to fit guys into a role to start with. And it's like, you're going to learn this role. We're going to teach you other stuff as you go along, but we want you to be really good at this thing. And then, we'll add on top of it and stuff. And I think that they're sort of stuck in between, like, okay, like he probably is the best option to be the slot receiver, but now because of the Wicks injury, you're kind of like running out of perimeter receivers and stuff. But like you said, this is something that it's in stale because we've seen the flashes. We know what he can do. We know he can do it at an NFL level. But it's like, okay, we need to like scheme things up for him and make things available for him.
That's all I got for stale. Do you got anything else?
Nope, that's it for me.
It's a Modici.
All right,
So
go for it.
yeah, I'm gonna go first since I'm kind of losing my voice with this stuff. So, I'm gonna go with an easy one too, and it seems like we're talking about this week in and week out. Is the officiating. And this crew was really weird on their calls. They missed an obvious false start. They missed an obvious offsides. Some of the defensive pass interferences were weird. The one that really, this one again, I don't know how they'd fix it because of the way it's written, but the Rodgers spiking the ball as he's going down and they calling it not intentional grounding because he had a quote unquote receiver there, but the receiver's engaged in blocking. So at that point, he's no longer a receiver, he's a blocker. But because of the position he plays, he's considered a receiver. And that's the only reason that he was able to get not called for intentional grounding. I think that's completely BS, but that's kind of like the coming back to the ball and getting defensive pass interference. How do you fix it? When do you not call it? And stuff like that. But there was so much with this crew that it was really weird calls. You kind of mentioned it with what was the call on it? Unnecessary roughness against the quarterback or not, or was it this, was it that? TJ Watt, it seemed like, got away with a lot of hands to the face, even though they called it like once or twice, but he seemed to get away with a lot of it. Whereas on the other side, Micah again was getting mugged and wasn't getting called. So, how do you, it seems like week in and week out, we're getting the same shit happening.
Yeah. So the intentional grounding one, again, the NFL needs to go and rewrite that rule because the intent of the intentional grounding penalty is to stop quarterbacks from dirting the ball when they're about to get to like avoid sacks. And I don't think you should be able to get away with intentional grounding in that scenario like Rodgers did, where one, you don't make a wind up motion to throw. Like, I think that's the lowest of the low. And this is, I'm not mad at Aaron because he is totally taking advantage of how stupidly this rule is written. So the two changes I would make is you have to wind up the throw. Whether it's with your throwing hand or your not throwing hand, you have to wind up the throw. None of this like push pass bullshit kind of thing and stuff. All of these things, what's going to happen is that it's going to come to a head because quarterbacks are so good at avoiding sacks and trying to stay alive in the pocket and all that kind of bullshit. Why does the hip drop tackle scenario happen for the Packers last week? It's because what's his face, the Cardinals back, he doesn't want to get sacked kind of thing. And he's a 6'4", 240-pound guy and like refuses to go down kind of thing. Same with Rodgers. He's like, I'm not going to run, but I'm still going to like juke and dodge kind of thing and like try to like keep a play alive. So the first thing is, it's like, honestly, just change up the wrap-up rules. Like, quarterbacks aren't going to like it, but it's like, okay, you can have all the protections, but once people get you wrapped up, the play's over kind of thing. That's one way to handle it. The easier written rule thing is, you cannot, like, the player is eligible based on how they line up, but you cannot deem a player as an eligible receiver on a play where the quarterback intentionally dumps the ball when they're not looking at the quarterback. This is the Rodgers play. He gets away with it because Jalen Warren is eligible, but he's blocking someone with his back to Rodgers. There is no way he is going to be able to attempt to catch that pass. Same with the Dak one from the last Sunday night game where, they like half rule that it's what's it called? That it's they like never really distinguish who's the eligible receiver, because it can't be Ferguson, because Ferguson's 8 yards downfield, and the running back is engaged with the defender. So that's the written part of the rule that's very easy to change. Is you just write the rule that receiving option needs to be looking for the ball. If he ain't looking for the ball or running a route, it's like, I can allow for the guys running a route, but he hasn't looked for the ball, because guys throw the guys the ball that aren't looking for fade routes kind of thing and stuff. So that's fine. But like, if you're in pass pro and especially if you're engaged in pass pro with a defender, you cannot get the quarterback a get out of free jail card. And then, like I said, on top of it, I would change the rule to where it's like, you have to like throw the ball, even if it's a dart throw. Like, but that underhanded push pass shit.
Technically, if you watch it though, it was a dart throw because it was just a real quick flick of the wrist.
But he's like, his hand is like this, like I know I'm making like a very insensitive motion, but his hand isn't like, like where it's like out to like a natural throwing motion. He's throwing it like against the grain, like how guys throw shovel passes kind of thing and stuff. Like, you have to be, even if it's a quick throw, you have to be like from a throwing position. I know that sounds insane to try and like govern and stuff, but like, you make defenders jump through all these kinds of hoops in terms of how they can or can't tackle, how they can or can't hit the quarterback. The least you can do is not make it so hard to hit the quarterback, and on top of that, give the quarterback so many get out of jail free cards on the back end of it. Like, they have to fix that, because the game is already so easy for quarterbacks. You can't hit them a certain way in the pocket. You can't slap their helmet on accident. You can't hit receivers over the middle of the field anymore. Like, there's so many things that already benefit the offense. And then on top of that, you're like, oh, and then the quarterback can just throw it into the foot of his running back who's blocking someone. It's like, no, like, that's a bridge too far. Everyone, all the Steeler fans or non-Packer fans getting mad at the Devontae Wyatt offsides, I'm like, tough shit. Broderick Jones ran 2 days before the ball was snapped, and like, it's bad when Collinsworth and Tirico are like, he went early, right? Like they didn't even, like, Tirico doesn't even call the play because he's like expecting a whistle and a flag. Like, it was that bad that like Tirico kind of does the like, solid gain for the Steelers there on the ground, and you can tell they're silently both going, there's a flag somewhere, right? There isn't? Maybe he wasn't as early. Oh, he was. He was awfully early kind of thing. So, like the Steelers fans, NFC North fans can all cry about the Devontae Wyatt play. To me, that's eye for an eye. You had your good luck play. We had ours. Tough-ish. And then the one where, Tom got called for illegal hands to the face, it wasn't even the Watt part of it. I understand, like, okay, he got blocked into him. I thought Highsmith landed on top of Love, and that whole body weight rule is still in the rule book. I'll go watch it back, see if it wasn't as bad. But the way he hit him over the top of Watt, like, to me, it's not that Watt hit him low. It's that Highsmith used Watt to push him over and land on top of Jordan. That's the part that I thought should have been flagged. And then Westendorf tweeted about this in the game. I do not like where we're going with the some of the how the league decides to do the assist from New York stuff. It's like, what are the bounds on like where you draw the line? Because it's like, okay, so that Robin Wilson touchdown, are you gonna stop every game in every situation that comes to like that? Which to me, I've long said probably should be how you use, we all see the game in 4K, and if something is so blatantly bad, you should be able to, from New York, be like, that was a god-awful call, change it, kind of thing and stuff. But the league has made no concession that that's what they're doing, no written statement that that's how they're handling these situations. And it didn't cost the Packers tonight, but it is one of those where it's kind of like, okay, now is where you're deciding that this is the line too far, that you're gonna just be like, we're fixing everything and we're deciding that this is a moment that we have to absolutely fix a wrong kind of thing and stuff. So like, yeah, it's one thing if the NFL is gonna come out tomorrow and be like, yes, NFL or New York assist is gonna do this in every game moving forward. I don't even like it if it's only primetime game, because it's like, it's a really bad precedent that we only give a shit about the Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night games. Tough shit if you get a bad call that's so blatantly obvious to the naked eye. We're not changing it in a noon kickoff game kind of thing. The league should be able to do this because you pay so many guys to sit there in that room with the bazillion TV screens and they see everything that we see and all that kind of crap. But like I said, I just don't like that on a week 8 Sunday night game, they're like, this is the game where we're going to make this sweeping change kind of thing and stuff. So I don't know where you draw the line with it, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm like, like I said, if they just declare that they're going to handle it that way from this point forward, that's fine. That's how I thought they should have done it. But I don't like that they're kind of jumping half-ass in the middle, in midstream and being like, oh, like, we're going to allow you to fix this wrong here at this point in the game. And like, good job, Keyshawn, breaking up the 2-point conversion. So it like kind of made it a new moot point kind of thing and stuff. But yeah, like that was one of those where I'm like, it especially looks bad because Pittsburgh can't challenge the play. I wouldn't have had a problem if it was like, oh, Pittsburgh could challenge it, and but the fact that they couldn't challenge it, and the league office is like, oh, it's just 7 seconds, and if this play was on the other side of the 2-minute warning, we would have stopped it, reviewed it, and changed it, kind of thing. I do not like that. That's the line that we're breaking here. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that being, like I said, I do think that that's always where the league should have operated in that regard, but I don't like that late in a fourth quarter of a primetime game, you're like, where the one team is out of challenges and is SOL kind of thing. Like, I don't like that that's the line you draw. And also, the ruling that like, oh, Wilson did enough. My point of view on that, and I know I'm saying this through green and gold colored lenses, is he goes to the ground. And if you go through the ground, you're supposed to complete the catch no matter what through the ground. And it's like, I understand that, like you had the Jordy Nelson touchdown back in, I think it was 2016, where he catches the ball, like pats his feet down, and then the Washington DB like karate chops it out of his hand and stuff. But Jordy is standing up through the whole play. Wilson goes to the ground, and that's the whole way the catch rule is written, is like, if you do all the stuff and you complete the catch standing up, you don't have to survive the ground because you're not going to the ground. But once the ground becomes an issue, you have to survive the ground. And that's my biggest bugaboo with that part of it, is I'm like, okay, like, I understand that the end zone changes things, but you still have to complete the catch. So it's like, why are we, that's the thing, is like, it gets back into that whole discussion. They have like 30 refs in a room and they're like, oh, 60% agreement is good. I'm like, no, it isn't. Like, no, it's not. That means there's a problem with your rule. So we won't beat the horse too much more on that. But honestly, that was really the only moldy thing I had tonight. Anything else for you? Because we talked about the LaFleur angle. We talked about McManus. Honestly, I can't even get on Bisaccia for the last holding call, because Bullard just falls down on the turf when he's trying to block the guy on the punt return. Like, Bisaccia could be Jesus and he couldn't have stopped that. Or I guess technically he could have, but...
Nothing that I can really think. Maybe the Steelers for choosing weird ass throwback
So
uniforms.
many people have talked about that. My only point is, I'm like, why? I get that it's honoring when you started playing, but like, wear that for week one. Like, don't wear a jersey from when your team sucked when you're playing a prime time, middle of the season defining game kind of thing.
I think the jersey was all right. It was the pants that made it weird.
I saw like Aaron Allen's tweet, like they look naked from the waist down. Stuff. That one made me laugh really hard before the game.
So but yeah, really after through all that, no, I don't have anything else. They did do what they needed to do. Uh, so yeah, I think we can leave it be.
Okay, and
I do
we're
want to
gonna
throw
let.
this out there though. It might not just be Westendorf that's not wanting to do Gold Zone. Brendan has really been busy with his other
Yeah, he's
obligations.
shout out to Brendan Dwerzinski, just continuing to cut it up. But uh, it's a fun show. I hope they do at some point bring it back. But Brendan is a busy man at this point. So, but you know what? We're gonna let Joe get to sleep. We've been going for 90 minutes. Like I said, I'm just so glad they won this game. I'm not gonna nitpick too much on how they got there because I just needed them to win this one. Like I'm not
I
being
did
super
too.
picky about it.
I
Just
could
wasn't
not
gonna.
let Rodgers get that
Yep.
32
And
32.
all the mass media, because you know that certain people were going to do the "Are we sure the Packers made the right choice?" kind of thing and all that stuff. I'm so glad that Jordan played the better game, just absolutely was dominant on the field tonight, and that the Packers won by 2 score. Like, and it wasn't just a squeaker. I'm glad they won by double digits. And hey, on top of it, extra point, they broke the 27 point. They don't win if they don't score exactly 27 points. So, I'm
And
all
this is
for
the first
breaking all
win
the
in Pittsburgh since 1970.
Yep. So I'm not superstitious until I am. So I like to break all the trends and all that kind of crap. So, but we're going to let Joe get on out of here, get some sleep, get his next dosage of medicine. That's going to do it for us tonight. Please check out the website, ohanapackers.org. As Joe said, please purchase things from the shop to assist in his recovery. He needs some more herbal teas, more cough syrup, more cough drops. So please check out, especially after Tucker's big game, check out the Tucker Craft line. Support us there. All episodes of this and Cheese Talk Radio are on there as well. Please follow us on your social medias at Ohana_Packers, at Ohana on Twitter, at Ohana Packers Edition on Instagram. Search us on Facebook. We want to get these live shows streaming on Facebook as well. So we want to hit that 100 follower minimum there. Please give the podcast a follow on your favorite podcasting app. Please like and subscribe. And that's all I've got for tonight. We're just going to get Joe out of here. Go Pack, go, and a look.
Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for the up. Let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know who wanna go.